The only comfort I can take in is the fact that time is moving a lot faster for me than it is for them up there. But besides that, he's late. He heard. We are, after all, talking about the same guy that bit 6 of your eyes off just because you were blinking too loudly. I haven't felt this bad since Mr. Snarly ran away. You ate him. You're getting the cold shoulder. Don't call full wolf. You'll be large enough for him to dissect. We're never getting out of here. Cocky, bumbling bastard. That was the only thought that was on my mind as I stared at the man in the driver's seat of his SUV. A sense of blame for a blameless act was all I could think about. He wore a steam-pressed suit, steel-toed shoes, and a bemused expression that said, "Fuck off or I'll boot you out of this car." My brother was... He was doing his best to give off an air of casual wealth. His wool sutures and his unevenly trimmed locks were a dead giveaway that he was trapped in the middle class. He wouldn't find me breathing the merest sigh of sympathy for him. Still, I had to give it to him. Dexter never expected he would have been given the hand that he had been dealt with, but you wouldn't know by glancing at him. He might be a smoke and mirrors kind of man, but he was clean and well put together. He was like a machine with an engine that never gave out. He could feed, bathe, and house himself without the inner marathon runner inside of him gasping for air. Meanwhile, I didn't even try to pretend that I was anything other than what I was. Damn near destitute. And who could blame me? I was the youngest, and our parents never gave us any money to pay for college, cars, housing. I was pasty and lanky. Ugh. Life punched me in both eyes, leaving them swollen and purple. My knuckles were naturally white as I would anxiously clutch my hands together. Life has left me cynical, and my brother strangely vindictive for his 26 years of age. We had to scrimp and save until our knuckles were swollen from cracking and our knees were wobbly from simply standing on our own 2 feet. They had always expected us to take care of them. Kids, as they'd say, were their retirement plan. Despite our grievances, it didn't make them bad people. We knew that. Life gave them nothing, and so they had little to give. The best thing that they could give us was their love, but to raise children, love sometimes just isn't enough. Over the years, I'd grown to pity them. My brother was still angry. Cocky, bumbling bastard.
Stop staring.
He mumbled through the side of his mouth. I saw his cheek swell as his tongue pressed against the side of it. That was the first time I've seen him do that in years. It was a bizarre, nervous habit of his, running his tongue over his teeth.
Sorry,
I said reluctantly. Perhaps I needed to monitor my own pride. I had been resisting the urge to grab my phone from my pocket in favor of being in the moment.
Guess you could say I was measuring my own mortality?
He cringed, sparing a glance at the passenger seat.
What?
My fingernails fumbled with my arms as I pulled my cashmere sweater.
I said I was measuring my own mortality.
He puckered his lips as if he were preparing to say something, but couldn't find the right words. I knew what he was thinking, though. Probably something along the lines of, how pretentious could you be?
That is gobbledygook and hogwash.
I couldn't help but laugh.
When something is bullshit, you can say bullshit. Using big words you don't use often enough isn't very fitting for you.
Just explain.
You don't just bury your dad and not see your own mortality, Dexter.
I lamented, cocking my head to the side.
Especially when he was only 57. I'm trying to be more present and receptive while you're still having a pissing contest with Mom. I mean, Jesus, brother, she needs us.
Penny.
He managed before seeming to have choked on the rest of his sentence. My brother was a lot of things, but he wasn't an ass. Not in a serious light, at least.
Let's just try to make nice, okay?
I sighed, feeling defeated. His Viridian eyes grew brighter as a screen of tears washed over them. Likewise, a wave of sorrow washed over myself. How could I be so arbitrary to him? Or maybe I only felt as such. I placed a scrappily manicured hand on the back of his neck and ruffled his dark hair. I turned my head toward the windshield. As the sun began to set somewhere beyond the ashen trees, the sound of the whistling wind was roaring high above the mountaintops. I retracted my hand in favor of clenching my sleeves to my palms. The thought of stepping out of this warm car into the frosty winter evening was enough to make me cringe. I should have been more focused on comforting him. After all, he was the driver. What a sad story it would be. 2 siblings were found in a fatal car accident caused by the brother's emotional state of mind. I shivered, feeling the sting of those words setting in. Yet, I still chose to drift off outside the car to the edge of the road, musing how the trees looked like blurs of color unless I followed them with my eyes. My very glassy, aching eyes. It had been a long day.
Remember that?
I flinched as I was plunged out of my train of thought. Dexter had blinked the tears away in order to give me a nostalgic smile. His slender finger pointed from the steering wheel down a path in the forest by the side of the road.
Crow's Corner.
My heart skipped a beat as I said those words. It was like as if a floodgate opened, allowing an ocean of memories to enter my conscience. The twigs that marked the entrance were now looming over each other as if they were weaving a thick, protective nest around the land. It was a complete juxtaposition to the soft, brittle brush that used to blow in the wind past the trees.
Where you can be one of the murder.
He recited with a grin.
Wow, we were dumb.
Definitely.
I giggled as I watched it pass us by. Crow's Corner was a little hideout a few friends of ours discovered back in high school. Basically, it was just a clearing in the woods with a small rock cave we could climb on top of or sit under. Some of us drank, some smoked, and others just lounged around looking up at the night sky. As teenagers typically do, we thought we were the edgiest teens around. So we thought we'd call it Crow's Corner in order to claim that we traveled in a murder. Stupid, sure. But for one night a week, we could just purge and let go. We felt like we were 10-foot-tall immortals that could fly into the night sky. Unfortunately, crows don't often fly at night. Not to mention, with the amount of vomit that would pour out of our 2 friends, Emma and Jack, it's a wonder they didn't die of alcohol poisoning. We definitely shouldn't have felt as limitless as we did.
I wonder what happened to them.
I thought aloud.
Our friends. Drifting apart sucks.
I heard Jack is going to med school.
Dexter started, uncomfortably scratching his nose.
Morgan got into photography. I think Emma is in rehab.
Wow, I guess she didn't take the breakup well.
I chuckled, giving him a light punch on the shoulder.
Please.
Dexter scoffed, smirking.
After sleeping in another man's bed for 2 years, I don't think I could do much damage to her.
You treated her like a princess,
I assured him.
Or did you forget that time that you stayed up with her till the crack of dawn because her mother was arrested? And for a DUI, no less.
No, I didn't.
He sighed, shaking his head.
But I couldn't hold my water like she could. Guess she was never truly my type, nor I hers. Getting wasted was her favorite hobby after all.
Oh, stop.
I groaned.
She didn't care that you'd get drunk after, what, 2 beers?
Dexter snorted before chuckling.
Why do I even bother with you? You always wind up making fun of me.
You know I'm right,
I stated.
Dad couldn't either. I think it's genetic.
At least Dad was a funny drunk.
Dexter remarked with a shrug.
He tried to wear the lampshade upside down.
Man, Emma and Jack were the worst drunks, though,
I replied.
Remember when they tried to convince us to go skinny dipping in our neighbor's pool?
Had to lock them inside our house.
He muttered.
Why did I date her anyway?
Because you weren't thinking with your right head,
I responded. Dexter's lips pinched together as I let the punchline sink in.
Ha, ha,
he said sarcastically. Life definitely took a few unexpected turns for me, and not all of them were terrible. I was curious to know if my friends had the same queries about my life as I did them. I pinched my hands together as exciting images of marriages and babies, family disputes, promotions, and other domestic qualities entered my mind. We were adults, and yet all I could feel was anxiety. I should just be satisfied with going to community college, even if I had no idea what I'd do with my degree. Hell, I was thankful to have even gotten into school. A blur of brown and yellow caught my eye.
Dexter, look out!
I heard someone scream. As he slammed on the brakes, jolting me forward, I realized that scream came from me. My head almost slammed into the glove compartment before momentum crushed me into the car window. We were spiraling. The only thing I could do was cover my head and close my eyes and plant my feet to the floor. Even when we stopped, I didn't move. I wouldn't dare, for the spiraling might start all over again, or at least it would in my mind. I heaved in oxygen as my heart thumped loudly in my head. I'm alive, I urgently thought to myself. That's all that feeling means. It means I'm alive. I'm okay.
Penny.
Dexter uttered, choking on his breath. I could barely hear him past the hammering in my skull. I knew I needed to respond, but how? My jaw was locked in place as air moved quickly past my lips.
Penny, are you okay?
I reluctantly opened one eye and then the other.
For Christ's sake, Penny, answer!
I felt his hand on my shoulder, grasping it tightly. It took a minute before I could figure out how to speak. When I did, the only word I could manage was,
How?
What?
He asked quietly, breathing a sigh of relief that I wasn't totally brain damaged.
How?
I repeated, not asking this time. I couldn't bring myself to focus outside the windshield, fearing what I might see.
How?
He breathed, trying to follow my thinking.
Did we miss the...
He trailed off, also not knowing what we had almost hit. His eyes were fixated on my face.
Yeah.
I breathed, digging my fingers into my scalp. I met his eyes, hoping to take solace in almost any bit of hope he might have that everything was okay, that we could do a quick spin and we would be back on our way to Mom's.
I'm a fair driver, aren't I?
His voice quivered as he tried to chuckle. He wasn't wrong, though. Had he decided to turn the other way, we would have rolled to our deaths into a wall of trees. It was funny how thinking about our deaths was a much better subject than coming to terms with the fact that the blur of color still sat in the middle of the road, unmoving. I gritted my teeth together. In the dying light, I'd be spared the gory details, but I'd be left with the feeling of the creeping abyss in the pit of my stomach if my fears were confirmed. I clenched my eyes shut before taking a fearful look at the center of the road. Even in the azure evening, I could make out its form. It was as if I noticed it piece by piece. A boot, a leg, a warm furry coat. This was a human being.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Dexter frantically jumped away from me and took several glances at the road before realizing the same thing I had. I didn't dare take my eyes off the body. I could sense the color drain from Dexter's face.
No.
He yelled to himself. He quickly got out of the car and took several cautious steps towards the pile of clothing and soft flesh. I followed with trembling hands.
I didn't hit them. I never hit them. You know that we didn't hit him.
I know!
I insisted. Or at least I thought we didn't. I didn't hear an impact nor a jolt of something hitting the metal. Something was horribly wrong.
Call 911.
He cried to me as he knelt down to feel their pulse. I fumbled with my phone when Dexter screamed and jumped back.
What?
I choked out, afraid to know the answer. He turned to me as if someone had stabbed him in the neck. I'll never forget the panic that dominated the light in his eyes.
It's Emma Sherman.
He managed to say with a quivering voice.
She's dead.
My blood ran cold. My legs gave out from under me. I caught the door in a desperate attempt to keep myself up. Was the ground moving? Were the trees spinning around me? The shadows of the trees caused the area to grow darker than usual. With the way that they reached to the sky, it truly looked like we were trapped in a cage with a lost companion. I swallowed hard as I slowly looked at my phone, took off one of my gloves, and started to dial 911.
911. Where is your emergency?
Hello? I asked dumbly. I shook my head angrily. My name is Penelope Durham. I'm here with my brother. We need help at...
Dex, where the fuck are we?
Dexter gave me an exasperated look.
How long has it been, sis?
He snapped, remarking on how this used to be a familiar road to me. I bit my tongue before I could argue with him.
Highway, 950.
What's the emergency?
The dispatcher asked.
There's a woman lying dead in the streets.
I replied, seemingly incapable of speaking without a tremble.
Her name is Emily Sherman.
Okay, we're sending over an ambulance now.
A fucking ambulance?
I bellowed. Panic was replaced with anger.
She's dead!
I understand that, Mom.
Send the police!
I shrieked.
Send the coroner! Shit, man! Send over a fucking psychiatrist! That would be way more helpful than trying to give mouth-to-mouth with a corpse!
Penny!
Dexter barked. He stood over Emma with his arms out as if to say, move on.
Can you tell me exactly what happened?
The dispatcher asked, as if I hadn't just released a small flame of hellfire onto him. I slammed my eyes shut, trying to visualize the order of events.
My brother and I, we were driving and, we were going to our mom's house, and that's when we saw Emily.
The taste of her name in my mouth was sour.
Stumble into the road.
Did the driver hit her?
No,
I insisted.
we missed her.
Was she hit by the car in front of you?
No,
I continued shakily.
we were alone.
I allowed the words to float around me like a bad smell. We are alone, with a body of an old friend in front of us.
Is she breathing?
I bit my lip in frustration. We didn't check.
Dexter!
I called to him.
Are you sure she's not breathing?
How can she be? Her mouth is full of blood. She's very dead.
He bellowed back. My mouth fell agape in disgust and my stomach churned.
No, she's not breathing.
I forced myself to say.
Her mouth is full of blood. My brother says that she's very dead.
Can you see what might have caused her death?
Dex!
I yelled again.
What's wrong with her?
Other than she's fucking dead? Because in case you forgot...
Just look at her, please.
I demanded, angry tears splaying across my eyelashes. Dexter placed a hand to his mouth and pinched his chin between his palm and his fingers. His brows stitched together as he shook his head.
What?
I marched over to him with the last bit of confidence that I had. I stopped about 5 feet away from the body. My eyes fell upon poor Emma, her ringed, dark blonde hair blowing in the wind. That was when the feeling of winter truly crept over my body. She couldn't feel a thing, yet she looked so cold. Even with her furry brown coat, she looked like she was going to turn to glass and break. Her half-lidded brown eyes stared up at the night sky, yet saw nothing. Her pale lips were chapped and shriveled, which clashed against the tears on her cheeks that were still drying in the merciless wind. That's when I noticed how the blood was pooling. It was exiting from inside her coat. Dexter must have noticed it too, because he decided to kneel down beside her.
Dexter, don't!
But it was too late. Dexter carefully opened her unzipped jacket. Neither one of us were prepared for what we saw. Dexter fell onto the seat of his pants, covering his nose and mouth with his hands. I stared in absolute terror. The hand that wasn't holding the phone flew up under my nose as my mouth fell agape. The skin of her torso had been sliced from her breastbone to her pubic bone. Fat and hints of muscle and bone were exposed as the skin had been pulled off to her sides, like wings. The stench of copper was positively sickening. I spun on my heel and I retched, releasing all the contents of my stomach.
Ma'am.
I couldn't respond yet. With the taste of bile strong in my mouth, I felt like I was going to pass out. Dexter took a few clumsy steps toward me before he too vomited. I reluctantly brought my attention back to the body. How the hell did she get here? I internally screamed. Yes, I'm here, I muttered, swallowing the remaining contents of my mouth. I think she was murdered. A funny look overcame Dexter.
Can you see where she's still bleeding?
Her entire... I tried to say as Dexter decided to approach her body again.
There's so much blood!
Dexter gingerly moved her left loose skin patch.
Don't do that!
I begged him, now clutching the phone with both hands.
The police need to...
Dexter suddenly turned to me. His face was ghostly. In his hand was a bloody feather. I knew immediately what kind of feather it was.
Penelope.
He spoke grimly. His lips puckered and relaxed several times as if searching for the right words to summarize the indescribable panic we were both feeling inside.
We have a serious problem.